Just to everybody. Give me a second. Amazing, beautiful. And we have betas just joining, which is amazing. So can you just write down in the comment section if you can see me and hear me okay, please? Just to know that we do not experience any technical issues. That would be really, really great. Thank you so much, Simone, for letting me know that you can see and hear okay. Anyone else? One more person just to let us know if you can actually hear us and see us okay, just to double confirm. That would be great. And we're ready to start very, very soon. So we're ready to get started. Thank you so much for sharing, Colleen. And thank you so much for the questions you shared with me the other day. It was really, really insightful. Those were amazing questions. And I made sure that will be part of our today's presentation as well. Redmi, you cannot hear us. We have two participants who can see us and hear us okay. So that makes me assume, Rodney, that there is a sound kind of tech issue on your end. So what I would suggest is if you can log out and log in or double check a little bit about the mute, that would be great. And we are almost, oh, amazing, Mikey. Thank you so much for letting me know about that. That's really great. So before we get started, I'm going to ask you guys to do it vice versa. Instead of me introducing myself, I would love to hear from you. And actually, I'm so keen to find out more about, where do you live, for example, or how many employees do you have in your business? Anything really that you would like to share, but let's start with an easy question. If you can share with me in the comment section, where do you live? That would be great. In my case, I'm originally from Greece and I live in London centrally. And I really enjoy living in London, to be honest. So just let me know in the comments, where do you live, which city, which area? I'm gonna give you a little bit of time. Karachi, Pakistan. Colleen, thank you so much for sharing. And that's the beauty of those virtual webinars, that we can actually get connected from so many different parts of the world, isn't it? South Africa, Cape Town. Oh my God, Simon, this is my favorite city in the world. And I spent 3 months there as a digital nomad in 2020 when there was a pandemic. I was there with my team and we were all working remotely from Cape Town. And I'm so much in love with the city that I'm ready to go and visit again next December. I just love Cape Town. Mikey from Philippines, that's amazing. And your student taking up a Bachelor of Science in Business, amazing. A major in human resources, that's beautiful. I've been in Philippines before in a tiny little island, which is called Malapascua. And I had such a great time. We visited that island to do diving with sharks. I don't know, Mikey, if you are familiar with this type of activity, but it was one of the most amazing things I've ever done, really. I really love this country so much. So give me 1 second, everyone, just to check a little bit the sound on my end. Just 1 second. So I'm ready to get started, and just to introduce myself very briefly, for those of you who are actually new in my world, my name is Alexandra Kafka, and I'm the founder of Urban Yoga Lab. I'm also a corporate well-being expert and a former PR executive. And I believe that this is the main reason why I'm so passionate about corporate well-being, about corporate wellness. So today we're going to talk about employee engagement. I want to share with you some of my best practices, tips, and hacks that I have implemented in the past successfully. I just want to actually give away those type of practices because I believe the more people know how to engage their employees, how to boost this employee engagement within their organization, the better it is for the employees, the better access they do have to amazing tools in order to radically upgrade their well-being. So I'm going to just share with you a presentation just to have also, some kind of visual here. So just give me 1 second, everyone. And in terms of my business, because normally when Kelly is here as well, that's great. In terms of Urban Yoga Lab, some people are wondering, what is it actually all about? We are an occupational health provider. So what we actually do is helping businesses to prioritize their well-being. And it's been almost a 2-year journey since we've launched, but so far we have delivered our programs, the services, our bespoke kind of series with more than 50 big corporations worldwide, including Royal Bank of Canada, Wells Fargo, and Soho House. So give me just 1 second to just check my kind of presentation, just 1 second. So I'm having here a team member, her name is Morgan, who's also attending the webinar today. So if you want this kind of presentation that I'm going to share now with you, if you want to get access to this presentation at the end of the webinar, you just feel free to let her know, all right? So in terms of Urban Yoga Lab, our team's purpose and life's work is to empower hybrid employees to get access to the right tools they need to thrive in their career. And I believe that we can actually thrive when we become aware of how to take care of our well-being and our mental health. So for the last couple of years, I have traveled to more than 40 countries all over the world with one single purpose. I wanted to immerse myself in cultures around the world to hack high performance via mindfulness. So I really wanted to find out what it really takes to live a fulfilled, rewarding, and sustainable life. Now, over the last kind of several years, as I said before, we have been entrusted by so many global brands to deliver our services, including the Zen Warrior program, to more than 10,000 employees in 6 different markets. So seeing from firsthand the impact of those programs to modern employees' lives, we decided with my team to launch Oxygen, our digital platform. Now, about my personal story, just a few words. I used to work as a PR executive in a PR agency here in London. I was so much passionate with my job. I was so much passionate by working with some like-minded professionals, some of the best in the world. I was like feeling blessed every single day for having the opportunity to deliver my services to tier 1 clients and to be part of some fantastic campaigns. However, despite passionate workaholic I was, I thought I was excited and happy and balanced. but there was something missing. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what was missing, right? So one day I was at work. I felt like I couldn't breathe properly. I felt heat on my body, and I lost my senses. I fainted while I was at work. And when I just opened my eyes, I just still couldn't breathe properly. That was one of the most challenging times in my life. They took me to the hospital and they said to me that I had a burnout. And let me tell you that back then, I thought that burnout is something that only people who do not love their jobs experience. And I was in love with my career. So I was like, how is this even possible? When I went to my therapist said to me that I was suffering from digital addiction. I didn't know what was that. I was suffering from imposter syndrome. That was something I had first time in my life. And I didn't know how to process my emotions of chronic stress and anxiety. As a modern employee working in a modern workplace, I had no idea about any of those syndromes or challenging conditions. So this is why I'm so much incentivized to share my tools today with as many employers as I can, because I truly believe that if we give access to employees, we can actually help them to thrive in their careers while they actually learn how to bring balance between work and their personal life. So for those of you who just joined, just to say that today's webinar is about employee engagement. I'm going to share with you my #1 best practice right now. But before we move to the best practice #1, I want to share with you that for those of you who will stay till the end of my webinar today, I'm going to share a diversity and inclusion calendar that we exclusively share with long-term clients. I'm going to just share this with you as a giveaway, all right? So for those of you who will stay till the end, right? And about today, I'm going to talk to you about employee engagement and my best practices. This is what you've signed up for. That's what you're getting. And I hope that sounds okay to everybody. I see some more people just joined. I want to say for those who just joined, we're ready to now share the best practice #1 about how to boost employee engagement. So we're ready to move to the first slide of the best practice. And at the end, if I cover all the different type of practices, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite mindfulness tools as well. So the question I normally ask my employees is, what if it would be possible for you to boost your employee engagement by 25%? And most of my clients, when I just ask this question, they look at me really kind of surprised, as if this is an impossible thing. However, as a business owner, the very first 6 months as the founder of Urban Yoga Lab, I was also struggling myself with low employee engagement. So I was talking with my clients and working on amazing well-being programs and delivering those solutions to my clients. And everybody was so excited about those programs, but the levels of attendance were very, very low. So I was asking myself, I kept asking my clients, what's going wrong? Why do we invest all this time and energy and money to build some amazing well-being events that nobody actually attends? This is such a shame. And it took me 6 months, to be honest, to do research, to test a lot of different solutions and come up with those 7 best practices that I'm going to share with you today. So best practice number 1, make employees part of the planning. Now, we talk about employees. My question is it possible to make them the decision makers in terms of the process of building a well-being program? And how we can actually do that? Instead of us deciding what's best for them, what about if we go and ask them what's best for them? So one of the things that I've seen as a corporate well-being expert, and also research shows, is that 64% of employees are not engaged in the workplace. And most of the cases, part of the reason is that employees are not part of the planning, the brainstorming, even the organization, the coordination, right? So regardless how engaging your program is, you think it is, regardless if you have invited an amazing award-winning speaker, an Olympian athlete, you might have organized something really amazing. It doesn't really matter if your employees are not interested in, they won't be incentivized to participate. So how do we make our employees part of the planning? What I suggest to my clients as the first step is to do quarterly reports where you actually, and surveys, where you actually try to explore what are the main interests on a list of well-being topics. Ideally, we suggest to list 8 different well-being topics and have your employees to letting you know how do they feel from 1 to 10 about each one of those categories. But also invite your employees to share their own favorite topics that they would like to see covered in your upcoming webinar or your upcoming workshop. So another thing you can actually do is to look at engagement reports in past topics and see the topics that they used to be very popular and reactivate those with high participation levels. By actually conducting those surveys, you become aware of what are your employees' main priorities, needs, but also challenges. One of the case studies that I'm happy to share with you is with one of our clients, Nokia. So it's been like a couple of months. We were brainstorming with the HR team at Nokia to come up with an amazing initiative where employees would love to join during Christmas and New Year's. So what we decided to do was to activate, to actually follow this idea, make employees part of the planning. So we actually did this kind of survey, and what we found, we discovered, was that the employees were very much interested in cooking a healthy recipe. And the HR team was actually surprised to find out that this was the case. That by having this information, that actually allowed us to come up with an amazing program. It was a series of cooking classes, workshops, where every single week we had invited a different kind of food influencer, food blogger, or a chef who was there actually to show to employees how to cook healthy, quickly, in a sustainable way, the meals. Let me tell you that the engagement on behalf of the employees was so high that we had a long waiting list of employees who were just really pleasing us to make them part of this program, right? So this is something you can definitely follow as an idea within your business. Then best practice number 2. I know it might sound a little bit crazy, what am I about to say, but how do you make sure that your employees are actually aware of your well-being initiative? Because in most of the cases, employees do not have a good understanding of the well-being offerings available to them. And in fact, I've read a research recently, which was conducted by Gartner's 2020 Wellbeing Benchmarking Survey, which showed that from 96% of businesses which offer mental well-being programs, only 42% of employees are actually aware of those initiatives. So almost half of the employees are completely unaware of what you might organize within your business. And this is really, it can be so much disappointing, I know, but there are some amazing ways that you can actually follow as practices in order to make sure that you promote those initiatives and everybody knows about those initiatives. And the number one thing to do is to make sure that you promote on platforms that employees actually using, and that employees are actually active on those platforms. And you know, the more kind of different platforms, or you know, your newsletter, or the different kind of aspects you might choose, the better. So, for example, what do we recommend our clients always is, before we even put, you know, a specific event on the diary, to first of all announce it, and second, to do a survey, just an online poll very quickly, and test how many employees are actually aware that this specific event is taking place. And if they are not aware, despite that you promoted that event, then it is not a good idea to launch it or to plan it on a specific day. It's more important here to make sure that you promote first on all platforms. Another tip I'm going to give you is internal comms. It's important to create an internal comms toolkit. I call it personally the promotion toolkit, which is editable, so you can use it every single time, the same toolkit, and you promote your programs in areas that your employees take a break from work. So for example, you can promote it on the doors where they are in the toilet. You can promote your events where is the counter, where your employees order their lunch. It can be in the kitchen area, flyers on the kitchen table. This is another great thing. Also, what we've seen working really, really well is in the lift, right? It's so good. In the water cooler area, all those are places that your employees actually go when they take a break. And trust me, when they are relaxed, in this kind of relaxed state of mind, this is exactly where they can process and save information of upcoming activities, of upcoming events. So you definitely want to try this. So make a kind of a checklist of all the important kind of the amazing spaces your employees gather, and just check those boxes. Make sure you have actually promoted on every single one of those places. And then I would say that for us, that's a case study that I would love to share with you, was with a construction company called Titan. And what did we do for this specific client was to create one pager where employees got information about healthy kind of tips, but also they were informed about the key awareness days or weeks of the month, and they were actually becoming aware of the agenda of the upcoming events that we had organized for them. And let me tell you, those one pages were so kind of popular, and there was so much interest about those one pages, because the employees were going there to get some, useful information about their day-to-day habits and lifestyle and health, while at the same time, they were getting informed about our upcoming initiatives, which was great. So I definitely suggest you to follow a similar kind of tactic. Best practice number 3, right timing is the key. So most of the companies I have worked with, the ones that they have very low levels of attendance are the ones that they do not promote their initiatives early enough. Does it ring a bell? Can anybody relate? And I'm just wondering, within your business, how much early do you promote an initiative among your employees? Is it a few weeks, or just a couple of weeks? Is it a month? And I'm going to share with you which is the ideal timing, if you ask me. So if you can write down in the comments what is the ideal timing for you to promote an event, and how long does it take you to promote it and make sure that everybody knows about it? Feel free to let me know in the comments. And the interesting thing about the right timing is that in a recent report, it's shown that 38% of employees mentioned that they do not participate in well-being programs because they are too busy. So the challenge here is that once a week to 15 days prior. Thank you, Colleen, for sharing. And let me tell you, Colleen, that this is something I see very often, with I work with HR professionals just like you. And I've noticed that this is a common kind of practice, 1 week to 2 weeks prior. So the challenge here is that many companies do not promote their initiatives early in advance. As a result, they experience low levels of attendance because employees simply do not have enough time to plan and book the events in the diary. Sometimes, there is a high percentage of employees who want to pre-plan and pre-book everything, and they want to know what's coming on their calendar within a month's time, right? So how do we make sure that we actually take into consideration those employees, right? And the answer is actually, to at least our best practice, is that it's really, really important to start promoting at least 3 months in advance. If you ask me personally, based on my experience, I've noticed that this is the perfect kind of period of time. You start promoting at least 3 months in advance, and it's an ongoing promotion. It's not just a one-off thing. We've noticed when we do this, the engagement rates are significantly higher. So also about timing, just keep in mind, it's very important to not have some big important business events planned on your agenda the very same days that you organize an event. And I've seen that a lot. I know it might sound common sense that I have been in workshops and webinars, and we had low levels of attendance, only to find out a little bit later that the business that specific day and time had a senior partnership summit or something like that. So make sure that your days do not actually overlap with some other important days on your diary. About Simmons & Simmons, this is something we did on their Senior Partnership Summit, where we delivered a series of breathing workshops, mini breathing workshops. We actually advertised this type and promoted internally this type of initiative 3 months in advance. And that's what I believe that's why when the event took place, we had such a high level of participation and engagement. Then I'm going to move to best practice number 4. And it's really important to engage senior leaders first. Can you, when it comes to mind, senior leaders, and how can we actually keep them engaged? What is the first thing that comes to mind? Can you write down in the comments? So when, in your case, you try to engage your senior leader to participate in a well-being initiative, what happens? What is the first thing that comes to mind? Just let me know down here in the comments. I will let you process it for a couple of seconds. And I see more people joining, so I want to say welcome and to let you know that our topic for today is employee engagement, and I'm sharing with you all some of my best practices, the best kind of case studies, some tips and hacks that you can actually implement within your business from day one. So I know that engaging your senior leaders within your business to attend your well-being events can be challenging. And maybe that's the reason that I don't see any comments here. But yeah, if you ask me from my personal experience, this is the most challenging thing. And that is because senior business leaders simply do not have the time, right? They're constantly busy. They really want to help, that there is no time. There is no time. So how can we actually reverse this? And let me tell you that leading by example is so much important. So much important. Because employees actually model what do they see their senior leaders doing. If your senior leaders do not join your wellness classes, your well-being webinar or workshop, they do not speak about it, not spread the word within your business. And how do we expect employees to do that, right? How do we expect employees to understand how important it is to prioritize their well-being and mental health? How important it is to ask for help when they need it? So I see Colleen here. If senior leaders will participate and employees will participate with more encouragement, I totally agree with you, Colleen. I totally agree with you. And let me tell you, I've seen that happening before. I've seen that. So it's so important to make sure that we actually engage our senior leaders. And I know that they might be busy. My own suggestion to you is the following. Can you just keep them engaged for the first month of the program? Just for the first month, just to start building that habit and this kind of continuity and consistency among the work, the other colleagues, that every Monday we do join these well-being sessions. Every Friday, we all go to this wellness class. And by just attending for the very first month consistently, they can actually inspire their employees to do the same. Another idea that I would like to share with you is that you can actually build a network within your business of mental health ambassadors or well-being ambassadors. Those can be employees who are passionate about mental health, and they can actually volunteer their time to educate, encourage, and provide assistance to other employees within your business. And the rest of the team can actually benefit from utilizing mental and emotional well-being offerings. I'll tell you a story. 2 years ago, we had a conversation with Amazon, their HR team, and we were building some synergies together. And I had that great idea to actually launch a series of wellness classes where Amazon employees could actually join every Tuesday morning. The interesting thing was that the HR team from Amazon said to me that, oh, you know what, this is such a great idea that we're actually already doing that. And I asked, okay, which is your occupational health provider? And what they said to me really surprised me. They said, we actually do not need an occupational health provider for that, because some of our employees who love yoga and they have yoga diplomas or heat diplomas or any other kind of wellness type diplomas, they actually love contributing their time free once a week to just share their time to teach the rest of the employees and deliver a wellness plan just for free, volunteering their time. And I said to them that this is such a great idea. Such a great idea to try to inspire your employees who are already passionate about well-being to be your own ambassadors. And here Colleen said, at my company, we share the engagement details with the senior leaders first, so they support human resources. This is a great practice, Colleen. And the other is asking a question, what are the examples of mental health well-being initiatives that you can recommend? That's a great question, actually. And I have so much to tell about this topic, really. So what I'm going to do, Beata, is I'm going to move to the next practice. And at the end, I'm going to, by the end of our webinar, in 15 minutes, I'm going to reply to this question because I want to dedicate enough time to give you as many ideas as I can, actually. So about making sure that your team is engaged, about leading by example, practice, case study that I would like to share with you is a law firm that we've worked for 2 years. We've run their well-being programs for 2 years. And the most interesting thing about this client was that the HR director and all the senior HR managers were every week participating in the event, participating in the webinar, the workshop. There was so much actively participating that I was inspired myself by seeing that, by seeing them actually making the time to come, even if that was for 30 minutes, for 20 minutes. And I could tell that the rest of the employees who were participating in that virtual room, they were so much excited to see their leaders being part of this, right? So I highly recommend to make sure your senior leaders are engaged. The next practice I want to share with you is, and maybe it's a question here, yeah. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about engaging your senior leaders? Is the question I asked you a little bit earlier. Can you tell me from 1 to 10, how easy is it for you to make sure that you can engage your senior leaders to join your well-being initiative just for a month? Can we actually do that? Can we actually try to do that? And if not, why? What makes it so difficult, right? It's a good question to ask ourselves. But if you can tell me from 1 to 10, how difficult do you think might be, or how easy do you think might be to engage your senior leaders for a month? In the meantime, as I'm letting you to process this question, and I'd love to hear about your own experience, I'm gonna move to the next best practice, which is exclusivity. So how do we make the initiative exclusive? I know it might sound crazy as well, right? How do you even invite us, Alexandra, to make our well-being event exclusive? And what does that mean? Why do we need to make them exclusive? We want everybody to come. We want everybody to participate. So why is it important to create a sense of exclusivity? I'm going to tell you something that is really, really interesting. And I've noticed that again from my personal experience. When we keep an event, a well-being event, open to everyone, then the levels of participation are way lower than having this event open to a limited number of employees. I've seen that hundreds of times. And I can sign with both hands that this is a fact, just because I've seen that so many times happening. So there is a secret I want to share with you, which is the first come, first serve principle to create an exclusive experience that will actually boost the demand among your employees. So by keeping the events open strictly to a limited number of people, you create this element of curiosity, anticipation, excitement. You get to have employees who are actually wondering why this event is just open to such a limited number of people and why I cannot get myself in the waiting list. And this is what you want, to create that kind of element of desire. And as I said before, anticipation. So moving to the next slide, it's so important because we see employees many times who might register in an event, but they never, ever attend. And this is so much discouraging. So my idea to make your events exclusive, to boost the demand, to make your employees want to be part of your initiative, is to communicate that those events are open to up to 10 participants. This is my suggested number. You can have your number up to 20, for example, but it's very important to define that there is a specific number and you are not going to have more than this number. So important. So that way you maximize your possibilities to have more people registering, to have more people on the waiting list, to feel more committed to join. And let me tell you that by just looking at the people on the waiting list, you can see the demand. Now, many HR professionals, they ask me, but Alexandra, if that's the case, and we're going to have just 10 employees joining this webinar and another 20 employees being on the waiting list, why is that good? Because all those 20 employees do not actually get the benefits. And what I always reply back is that it's better to do then another similar event and then have those people on the waiting list joining. Nobody actually prevents you from doing something like this. But let me tell you that it's way more beneficial to have 2 events with a certain number of people joining rather than having 1 event and have very few participants registering and joining. And if you want me to take this also to the next level, you can also penalize some employees that they register, they do not attend without a serious kind of reason, right? Because that way you make them understand that they get the slot of someone else and this is so unfair. So you create that culture of employees to be interested in, but also committed to join your initiative. Before I move to the next practice, sometimes that I said, sometimes difficult as people don't see this type of activities as important. Beata, this is honestly, I cannot agree with you more. 100% agree. I mean, some people, and especially senior leaders, they are like, oh, this is another well-being event. Why should I pay attention? Why should I invest my precious time, right? And then it's up to us as HR leaders or professionals to try to convince, to persuade, to inspire them. And this is so difficult. I totally agree with you. And Colleen said, as mentioned earlier by Alexandra, the senior leaders are always busy. It's difficult to engage them as they might think it's not important enough for them. But in my current company, senior leaders are very much engaged and promote these activities with HR. Beautiful, Colleen. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, when it comes to exclusivity, and this idea I just shared with you, a case study that I would love to share with you is with Biro Veritas. It was a year ago. We've run a series of bespoke well-being classes, but just for up to 10 participants. Now, the waiting list for those sessions was always kind of so long that the HR team was really amazed by how many employees started having that conversation within the business. This type of exclusivity created a buzz around our initiative, and everybody wanted to find out more about it, which was amazing. So I highly, highly recommend you to create this sense of exclusivity. But would you like to tell me honestly, what do you think? And if you can raise your hand, if you are already giving a limited access to your well-being events or not. So how many employees do you normally have in your current well-being events, in your existing wellness classes, or any other well-being initiative you might organize? What's the maximum number of employees you normally have joining in your events? If you can share with me, that will be really, really great. And I'm so curious and keen to find out about you as well. So it's not just about me sharing practices, but it's also about getting to know you a little bit better and, you know, opening a dialogue, having that kind of conversation. So I'll give you some time to share with me. 50% of the total strength of employee. Beautiful, Colleen. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to move to the next practice because I'm conscious about the time. So the last practice for today is interaction and engagement. Now, I've seen many clients launching programs that everybody wants to join the first week, but then all of them disappear. From the second, third week onwards, we see the levels of engagement just dramatically being decreased. And we are asking ourselves, what went wrong? So Beata said, we had organized 15 minutes head and shoulder. This is amazing initiative, Beata, in the past. Maybe 20 slots in the day. Yes, Beata, I again agree with you. Most of the companies we work with, that's what they are aiming for. So they are like up to 20 employees, because if we have more, then employees feel that there is not this kind of personalized experience. And we want to be able to create this between the coach and the participants. So I would say, if you personally ask me, 20 slots maximum is the ideal number. Of course, as I said before, 10 is even better. But if you have a big company, if you are in a big organization, you have thousands of employees, then yeah, 20 slots is a very good idea. And thank you for sharing this initiative with the 15-minute head and shoulder massage. We did something like that with Urban Yoga Lab team, which was like desk yoga and desk stretching, 15 minutes every Monday and every Wednesday. So we named those Wellness Mondays and Mindfulness Wednesdays, and we had employees joining and learning how to use their desk and their chair to realign their posture, to stretch, to distress, all those things. So about going back to the practice, the interactive and engaging programs, I want to share with you that, yeah, what I've normally seen by working with big corporations is that we have high levels of engagement in the very beginning of an initiative. And as we keep like delivering those sessions, we see the engagement, the interaction gets down, like really kind of almost dramatically down. So I asked myself so many times, how can we actually change that? How can we make sure that the employees keep coming? It's not just an on-off thing for them. So what I've discovered, and that might surprise you, is that when we invite our employees to be with their cameras on during a workshop, a webinar, a session, they tend to be way more engaged because they want to appear attentive, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should make this mandatory and everybody to be with their camera on. No, of course not. What I'm saying is a very good idea to encourage, to inspire, to incentivize our employees to be with their cameras on. When they do that, it creates a human-centric experience between them and the coach, but also the rest of the participants in the virtual space, or even the virtual space. So this is my suggestion to you. By simply having the video on improves learners' engagement. We can encourage the participants in many ways. I know that this is tricky. I've been there. I know it is tricky. It's not easy, but I will share with you 3 main tips on how we can actually make this happen. So tip number 1, set the expectation in advance in an email. Many employees want to be camera ready. They want to know, oh, okay, if I'm invited to be with my camera on, I might want to have my makeup on, to be dressed nicely. So they want to know that in advance, right? The second tip, ask participants to turn on their video at the beginning of the session, but give them a reason of why it's important. For example, if you run a wellness class and you want your participants to be with their cameras on, the coach might invite the participants to be with their cameras on just because that way they will get instructions on how to modify, how to be assisted to do certain postures. So they will receive real-time feedback from the coach, which is amazing. Will make their experience even more personalized. And as I said before, we do not force the people to be with their cameras on, we just motivate them, we just incentivize them. Tip number 3, about the participants who turn on their video, it's important to thank them by their name. And this kind of positive reinforcement can actually work wonders within your business. Best practice we have implemented this was with Modrian Asset Management, where we did a series of workshops based on nutrition, and we kindly asked the participants to be with their cameras on. 70% of them, they decided to be with their cameras on, and this created an amazing, friendly atmosphere in the room, and everybody felt so much engaged, and they kept coming, which is exactly what we're aiming for. Now, as we are at the end of, would you like to share one single thing you have tried in the past to make your programs more interactive? I'm really curious to know also, your own kind of best tips and hacks. And today's webinar is all about sharing. Given we are almost at the end, if you have a tip to share with us, that would be really great. And I hope, Colleen, because you sent me some questions via LinkedIn, I hope that via this webinar today, I reply to all your questions about how to help different teams to get to know each other better, about how to encourage teams to do more, about how to engage every individual in a team to be engaged. We talked about the ambassadors, right? The ambassadors network, about cost-effective employee engagement ideas. We talked about the promotion toolkit that can be editable, and you can use always the same toolkit. You do it once and you use always the same. What more should our company do to boost employees' motivation? We talked about this, engaging the senior leaders, and also boosting the levels of interaction with those hacks I mentioned at the very end of the webinar. Now, about Beata's question about the mental health well-being initiatives. Beata, I had so many mental health initiatives to recommend, and this is mostly because many members in our team are psychologists, psychotherapists. We also work with the amazing Dr. Fotiadu, who is a doctor in positive psychology, and with her we run some amazing programs in positive psychology. So I suggest about psychology and mental health is about introducing some webinars or workshops which are all about building resilience. This is a really hot topic right now. Another thing about mental health is how do we set boundaries between our personal life and our work environment, especially when we work remotely. Another thing about mental health is how do we learn how to process emotions of stress, anxiety, pressure in a sustainable way, right? So how do we actually provide our employees some transferable tools that they can use in their day-to-day life in moments they feel that there is a tight deadline, they're anticipating their next promotion, they have some issues in communication with the senior managers. So those are just a few ideas, but of course, if you want to find out more, I'm more than happy to share more ideas with you. You can actually book a meeting with me, right, Morgan? We can share the Calendly link at the end. So if any of you want to book a 20-minute slot with me, I'm happy. Yes, thank you, Beata. I'm more than happy to share my ideas. No commitment, no anything, just to have a conversation and build a relationship, right? That's how I see it myself. So now, as we are at the very end of our webinar, I just want to make 3 announcements. First of all, for those of you who stayed, thank you so much. Thank you for participating. I feel so much blessed and privileged that you decided to spend your time with me this afternoon. So if you would like to receive my diversity and inclusion calendar, then write down in the comment section the letter D, or send a direct message to Morgan here in the comments that you would like to receive the diversity and inclusion calendar, and share your email address with her so she can actually share this with you at the end of the webinar. The second announcement I want to make is about my next free webinar. As you might all have seen so far, I'm sharing from my experience authentic examples that represent real case scenarios. So my next free webinar, which will be all about that, I'm going to show you how to create your own bespoke promotion internal comms toolkit, step by step. We're going to do this together via free webinar. I'm going to deliver this webinar on 6th of June. I'm going to have no more than 10 participants, just to introduce the idea of exclusivity on my webinars from now on as well. So if you want to be one of those 10 people, feel free to let Morgan know about it. And my last announcement is the most exciting, I would say. I spoke earlier about our Zen Warrior program. All the case studies I've shared with you are part of this Zen Warrior program that we have run for thousands of employees of very big corporations so far. So this year, we're ready to launch it next month. It's a 2-month program for hybrid employees, modern employees who want to learn how to enhance 8 different aspects of their well-being. One single well-being pillar every single week. We share hacks, transferable skills, and tools with employees who want to learn how to look after their well-being. So if you want to bring your employees to be part of this program, we're more than happy to get you involved and to work on this together. We give a 20% discount, yes, 20% discount for the people who are in this room right now. So if you want to get your discount, feel free again to send a private message to Morgan, or just to email her. So we can also share the email address in the comment section. So I'd love to keep in touch. I'd love to be friends with you, regardless if we're going to work together or not. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that we open the channel of a dialogue between us, and that's so much important. So before I end the today webinar, sorry that it took us a little bit longer than I expected, but in case you would like to connect with me personally, please feel free to do so. Please feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. Tell me what was the idea that you found kind of more useful. And yeah, we're almost at the end of the presentation, right? So let us know. Here is our mail address, here is our phone number. So feel free to send me an email on LinkedIn. Let me know what was the best tip that you learned today, the best kind of practice. And if you want to share something, that you have implemented successfully in the past, I would really, really appreciate that. So from my team and my business, I just want to say big thanks for being here today. Really, really appreciate you, Colleen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Encouraging an interactive webinar. Thank you for being part of this and making this webinar even more interesting with your questions and your amazing comments. That again, thank you for your contribution here in the comments, but also for those who didn't contribute in the comments. I thank you so much for investing your time and your energy. So I want to wish to everyone to have a beautiful, beautiful weekend, a relaxing weekend. Yeah, I hope we stay in touch. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you all. Thank you, everybody. Bye, everyone.